Hello everyone and welcome back to The Games Must Go On, a series where having money doesn't make any sense. Today we're going to be breaking everyone's favorite plumber as we make him broke as we ask the question, can you beat Super Paper Mario without any coins? So without further ado, let's jump right into the rules. Now if we tried to do this as a standard coinless run, meaning we have to keep the coin counter in the top right corner at 0 at all times, this run would be dead from the start. Mostly because in World 4 we have to buy two things, a piece of paper and a chocolate bar, and these things are completely required, and like most goods and or services, they do require money. Now from here I could make this into a minimum coin run, but I feel like that'd be pretty dumb as then I would be allowed to collect up to 110 coins that would be required in Chapter 4, and I feel like that defeats the whole purpose of a challenge. So that's why instead I'm going to ban all coin collecting except for things done specifically for getting these two items, that being selling two items at a shop once we actually reach Chapter 4. But with that being said, it's finally time to ask the question, can you beat Super Paper Mario without collecting any coins? We start this run off in 1-1, and like 1-1s before it, it has Goombas, which we can thoroughly murder to find that they don't drop coins, which is definitely something good to see, as if enemies dropped coins, this would definitely be a more difficult challenge. But with the Goombas disposed of, we can break into Bestovius' house to learn the ability to turn the game into a Crash Bandicoot ripoff. However, Bestovius does ask for every coin in our pocket, which turns out to be just a goose egg. After learning how to flip between dimensions for free, I headed outside before jumping on a squiglet, and when it died, it dropped the coin. Well, it turns out that everything I told you up to this point is a lie, as enemies can drop coins as they have something called a Schrodinger's wallet. What's a Schrodinger's wallet? Well, to explain that, I have to talk about today's sponsor, Ridge, who makes the best I'm kidding, I didn't get sponsored. But these guys do actually have Schrodinger's wallets in the case that they can drop coins, it's just completely RNG if they do or not. But it does seem that some enemies drop more coins than others. Either way, we're gonna have to keep our eye out and try to avoid killing any more enemies. After resetting, I was able to take down 1-1 without any more problems. In fact, I was able to take down the entirety of World 1 without facing any more difficulty, but I would like to mention a couple of things, the first of which being 1-3 as it featured O-Chunks, and O-Chunks is a boss, and bosses don't drop coins, and unlike the Goombas at the beginning, this isn't a fake out, they literally cannot drop coins, which is something good for us. I'd also like to mention 1-4, and that's because of the three ways we can heal in this game. The first way is by finding an item out in the open, or in a chest, and then using it. This is the way we're going to be healing most of the time. Another way is by buying items in the shop, but we can't do that because that of course requires money, something that I really don't care for. And lastly is by using mushrooms that can be found in question mark blocks. This is a risk, and that's because the question mark blocks could have coins in them, so I have to be really low on health to actually consider it. Well, turns out in 1-4 I was low on health, and I had to risk one at the very end of a level before the boss. I was lucky here because it contained a super mushroom, but due to my hesitance I'm definitely going to be low on the health side moving on. With that, we can quickly kill the boss to finish off World 1 before we find that Peach has landed in Flipsville. However, she's unconscious and the only way to wake her is with a spicy soup. The only way to get a spicy soup is to cook a fireburst. The only way to get a fireburst is in the shop. Well, actually not, because we can go back to 1-1 and break back into Bestovius' house before robbing him to find that he actually has one. And with a fireburst in hand, it's only a matter of seconds before we're able to awaken Princess Peach. And with that, we can move on to World 2. The first level of this world actually brings with it the first real problem of a run. That being, we have to kill 3 squiglets in order to move on, and that of course opens up the possibility of collecting coins. But by grinding out attempts, it definitely is possible to beat all 3 of them without getting any money. But that's not the real problem in this level. Oh no, that has to go to the Gromoeba. Now you might be wondering why this washing machine shaped enemy is actually a problem. I mean, sure, it clones itself, but it's not necessarily threatening. Well, that's because it's one of the richest enemies in the entire game, which basically means it will always drop a coin, which obviously is a problem when we need to kill it in order to unlock Boomer. Not all hope is lost though, as we might be able to kill it without actually killing it, and by that I mean we might be able to use a catch card. This would essentially catch the enemy, but it wouldn't kill it, but since the enemy would be removed from the screen, we would still be able to unlock Boomer. However, we have to actually get a catch card, and there's only a few ways of actually getting them. The first of which being to find them out in the open, which I wasn't able to find any in World 1, so that doesn't work. Another way is to buy them at a shop, but in order to get to the shop, you need to unlock Boomer. Of course, the thing that we're trying to get by killing this washing machine. And last but not least, we can get one as a random drop from an enemy. However, only certain enemies drop them, and it's still incredibly rare. So, could this even work? Well, before I go waste my life trying to grind up a catch card, let's first test if it would even work in the first place. Well, turns out it actually won't, as for some reason, even if it drops a catch card, it still will drop a coin. Which means there's no way to get past this enemy whatsoever without it dropping... Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. I just had to get lucky? Well, turns out the answer is yes, because while this enemy's luck value for dropping coins is very high, it's not 100%. So with adequate luck, it is technically possible to get past. But don't expect me to do that again. After that, the rest of World 2 is pretty easy. The only thing I really want to mention is in 2-3 we have to pay off a massive debt. But since this debt is in rubies and not coins, it's perfectly fine. And with that, we can leave the world with a pure heart, lamp oil, rope, and bombs before heading into World 3. Surprisingly, 3-1 actually starts off with a pretty big problem. That being this castle, as we have to blow it up, but the enemies on top of it will die when we do. And that's a problem because these enemies will most likely give us coins. Now I could go ahead and try my luck and try to just not get any coins with RNG, but I have a better idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line up a Bill Blaster so that way I can jump directly onto this other castle and then use Throw to move them off. However, just moving them off of the castle isn't enough as they'll still give us coins. Instead what we can do is just move them really far off screen. Just take them on a nice wild adventure before blowing up the castle to avoid getting any coinage. And with that, we can destroy Bowser before moving on to 3-2. While at first this stage doesn't look that bad, it does have one major problem. That being, to unlock Fudley, we have to kill 5 enemies in a room similar to the squiglets back in 2-1. And if killing 3 enemies wasn't bad, killing 5 definitely is. In order to get good RNG, this will probably take me hundreds of Nope, it took me 3 attempts and then I was able to get Fudley without collecting a single piece of change. How I got this lucky? That's still a mystery to even myself. But with that, we can move on to 3-3. Surprisingly, the problem here isn't the coins. It's instead that we have to fight Dementio, and that's because at this point we are severely underleveled from all the enemies that we've been avoiding. Not to mention, we haven't been getting any points from coins. This means we have a huge disadvantage, and it doesn't help that I was only at 1 HP at the time. This gave me 2 main options, to either grind out the Dementio fight, or to climb the entire tree of 3-3 in order to collect a mushroom that rested atop of it. And after several attempts, I decided to climb the tree, which definitely wasn't easy with 1 HP, but it was possible. And after that, I was able to take down Dementio. Our last level in World 3 is Fort Francis's Castle, and the only real problem here is when we hit this switch to unlock Carrie, all the patrol meows in the area will die. and this of course drops their coins and would be pretty bad if we couldn't just lure them over to the left in order to prevent them from dying. And with the robots left intact, we can pretty quickly finish off World 3 and head off to World 4. Like I mentioned in the intro, in 4-2 and 4-3 we have to buy 2 items in order to move on, totaling at about 110 coins. However, because these are allowed, we can quickly dispose of World 4 in its entirety and move on to World 5. To be completely honest, World 5 is actually pretty easy as well, but I did have a close call in 5-2 with a volcano and some coins in it. Also in 5-3 I had to be careful because there was a bunch of Kaizo blocks. But other than that, World 5 went down pretty easily. Keeping with the trend of easy worlds, World 6 doesn't really offer anything in the way of difficulty. Now, a couple of the samurai fights do feature minions that could give us coins, but overall, since the samurais themselves can't give us coins, it's a pretty easy world. World 7 is a little bit more interesting, as in 7-1 we actually get our hands on a healing fountain at the very beginning of the stage. This is important because before this, whenever I wanted to heal, I would head back to 1-1 and hit particular question mark blocks for mushrooms, but now we have an easier way to heal. Our next stop is 7-3, and for once it's because the developers actually put coins directly in our path that we can't just jump over. And because of this, we actually have to use Mario's 3D ability to just walk around them. But it's definitely possible to avoid, so we can move on to 7-4. This level actually features multiple rooms with skeletons in them, and we have to kill these skeletons in order to move on. Now it might look like we're going to have to deal with RNG again, but for once we actually have good level design on our side. That's because if we throw the enemies off the ledge with either throw or bumping them off with Peach's parasol, they won't drop coins because they'll fall off screen. And because of this, we're able to clear 7-4 before finally moving on to the final world, World 8. Truthfully, this challenge hasn't been that bad. Now yes, we have had difficult levels like in 2-1 or 3-1, but for the most part, it's been relatively easy. Anyway, welcome to 8-2, forget everything that I just said because we have one final enemy ambush, and it's against none other than Chromoeba, essentially the drier version of Chromoeba. And if we were able to get lucky against Chromoeba, we're going to have to do the same for Chromoeba, which means it's time to get back to the grind and actually try to beat this without it dropping a single coin. And while it did definitely take a while, we were able to get it, which means all we have left to do is to punch Count Bleck in the face, destroy the evil version of Luigi, and say that yes, it is possible to beat Super Paper Mario without collecting a single coin. But with that, I would like to say, if you enjoy this content and you want to see more, please consider liking and subscribing. But with that, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.